Thank you very much for having me. The story starts with my wife and I. We lived in Australia for a couple years, and we had the opportunity to travel around quite a bit. And I remember exactly where I was. I was drinking a ginger beer on a beach in Victoria. It was a Tasmanian ginger beer, and I was cooking dinner. My wife and I, we were traveling out of a camper van at the time, and it was red curry. For those that are curious, what I was making. And as I was drinking this Tasmanian ginger beer on a Victorian beach, it hit me. Like, was anyone making ginger beer like this back home, back here in Utah? Our visa was running up in a couple weeks. We had to come home. We couldn't stay in Australia, at least not legally, as much as we wanted to. And so I pulled out my phone, and thank goodness for technology, because I was able to message my friend who was on the other side of the planet from me at the time. He was here in Utah. And I said, hey, when we get home, we're going to start making some ginger beer. And so what we did is when we got home, we started toying around with recipes. And not only did we make a recipe for ginger beer, but we also have a recipe for root beer and apple beer, all made with real ingredients. So there's no syrups, there's no preservatives, there's no additives, there's no food coloring. Part of that was when we were toying around with recipes, we didn't know where in the supermarket shelf was yellow colored number 5 flavoring or like natural flavoring, which I still don't know what it is. But we could go in a supermarket and buy lemons, limes, and ginger. But this really started to connect for us on how important it was to make with real ingredients when we were at a farmer's market. And I was at the booth, and a man came up to us, saw that we were selling ginger beer, and he said, I love ginger beer. I have to try yours. So we sold him a cup, and he took a sip. And I love it when this happens. It was almost, the arch the back, tilt the neck, step back, wise open. And he was like, oh my gosh, this is amazing. He said, I'm from Jamaica, and I used to go to my grandmother's hut where she would make homemade ginger beer on the Jamaican beach. He said, this isn't quite as good as grandma's, but it's a damn close second. And who was I to argue with Grandma Jamaica? Said, fair enough, but I'm happy you enjoyed this one. And he walked on. And so what we discovered, that Traveler Soda isn't just about quenching your thirst. It's about that every batch of Traveler Soda is a journey for you to go on. And what we have really started to do over the last few years is we've done about 20K in revenue over the last couple of years. We have 6 reoccurring wholesale accounts. One of those accounts is White Horse. It's a bar restaurant in Salt Lake. And if you ever get a chance to go, their smoked Reuben sandwich is unreal. But as I was making a delivery there the other day, I asked the bar manager, hey, how are things going? He said, Steve, they're going pretty well. In fact, a couple came in the other night. The man, he ordered a beer from the bar. The woman, well, she was pregnant, so she wasn't drinking any alcohol, and asked if there was anything else she could drink besides water or Coke. So we gave her one of your root beers. And after the meal, she said it was one of the best root beers she's ever had in her life. Said it reminded her of the time that she used to go camping with her father and drink root beer by the fire. And so what we started to see is that there's a lot more people interested. In fact, as of right now, I have more orders than I can produce. I have standing orders of over 8,000 cans. So much so that right now, unfortunately, I don't have the production capabilities to be able to do that. I am building up to there, and I would like to be able to approach, local groups like Harmon's or the local groups that own, Station 22 or Communal, R&R Barbecue, and get it out here spread in Utah. But as we started looking at the market, not only do I think that Traveler Soda is a good market fit here in Utah, when we look at the overall non-alcoholic beverage industry, that's worth over $240 billion. That's billion with a B. 80% of that is sold through distribution channels. So through, restaurants, supermarkets, and retailers. But over this last year, as we've seen a change in consumer behavior as well. There's been an uptick of over 50% of people buying online groceries. And over this year, it's projected that 70% of us will participate in some form of online food ordering. And whenever we get back to whatever we presume is normal, these behaviors will stay. So there's a big chance, big opportunity in distribution and with online e-commerce direct to consumer sales. And so, of course, we're trying to build up our equipment, get some better ingredients, bulk ingredients, so we can produce these. But, we are also looking for investments. 20K gets us to be able to fulfill the orders that we have today. 100,000 allows us to do that and to go into distribution channels, bigger distribution, go into e-commerce, marketing, social media, that kind of thing. And I think we have the perfect team in order for us to do that. We have myself as Steve, founder and CEO. We have Christina, she's our CMO. Her eye for detail is unreal. We just went through a rebranding phase, and I was talking to her earlier this week, and she was nitpicking stuff that I wasn't even seeing. She's awesome. We have Nate Call, who is, charge of manufacturing. He's our COO, knows supply chains. And he was like, Steve, just know when I come to you with what we need, just know that I've done my research. He is awesome. And we're also in partners with ViewShift Partners. Noble is here with me today. They've been awesome, fantastic to the addition to the team as well. And so Traveler Soda isn't just about quenching your thirst if you're thirsty. It's about quenching your wanderlust. It's about the time that you remember Grandma Jamaica. It's about the time you remember going camping with your father or starting a whole brand new story, right? The time that we did, or hey, remember the time that we went to, or that person that we met, because Traveler Soda is for you to taste the world. Thank you.
I didn't see any of your pricing information. What do you actually charge per can? And then also, do you only sell in cans? Do you also have bottles? Do you also have syrups for soda fountains, that sort of thing?
So we just went from redesigning from bottles into cans. That's more economical, and it helps us in a lot of different ways. It's more environmentally friendly. We've been selling it wholesale by the case of 24. We've been selling it so a case of 24 is $50. We've been selling wholesale. Ideally, what we'd like to be able to get is off the shelf to the consumer to about $2.75. We're probably closer to $2.99, $3 right now. But with getting stuff costs down, we want to be around $2.50, $2.75 off the shelf. For 12-ounce cans, yes. And we don't do syrups because we use real ingredients. It's not like a syrup base where you can put it into a fountain. We can make it, and what we've done at farmers markets is we put it in Cornelius kegs that we can tap. So we can do it fountain-ish, but because it's not syrup based, it doesn't work in a fountain type system. Does that answer your question?
The follow-up question is, well, why not? If you're trying to get into distribution systems, a very large chunk of that, I don't know if it's the majority, but it might be, is in syrup-based systems.
Almost all of it entirely. And that's what we think why we're different, is because we use real ingredients that we're not syrup-based. We think that makes the difference in our flavor and the experience that you get. And being syrups, like, I don't even know I enjoy in Coke as much as the next person, but what's actually in Coke? It's some syrup, sugared stuff, right? The story that we're trying to tell is you can taste the world, and I don't think you can taste the world or experience with man-made ingredients.
Maybe speak to, because there are some that I've seen that claim to be natural sodas or whatever. Maybe explain the difference a little bit between what you guys do versus what other people may say is natural, or a natural brewed soda or whatever.
So when I say natural ingredients, I mean ingredients that that you can pronounce and that you can buy. If you look on most soda cans or beverage cans, it'll say quote unquote, quote natural ingredients or natural flavors. But if it's so natural, why can't they tell us or list them? And I'm not trying to say that like, hey, I want to go against like the soda industry, right? Like, again, I like a Coke or a Pepsi just as much as the next person, but I want people to know what they're drinking And to me, having that real experience comes to having those like ingredients that you pronounce and that you know what you're consuming. Does that answer your question?
Okay, I just wanted to bring in, is it Shaylee from online?
Yes. I don't even.
Oh yeah, go for it. We can hear you.
Oh, I just wanted to say ditto because I have a can of ginger beer right here. I also spent 3 months in Australia. Everything you said, it's true. I've got carbonated water, high fructose corn syrup, citric acid, gum, natural flavors. I don't know what that is, and ester gum. So ditto on that. So everything.
Right on. What are you drinking? What is it called?
This one's ginger beer. This is the one from Aldi. The right amount of kick in every sip. And it's pretty good, but I'm sure yours is way better because this one was all right.
It is, but I'm glad that you know we're on the same page.
I just wanted to ditto, echo all of that.
Awesome. Thank you very much.
All right, I have a question for you. First off, when I saw the ginger beer, I too got excited. I have a mini fridge in my room. There's ginger beer and root beer in there. And there's 3 different types of root beer because I'm not sure which one I like the most. But anyways, that's for another story. But what I'm asking you is, how have you ever reached out to gas stations, for example? I feel like that's a huge market for your sodas.
The question is, so yes, I would love to. So to get to gas stations, one, I have to have the production to be able to fulfill gas stations. That's what I'm trying to build up to. And gas stations, a lot of chain restaurants, supermarkets, they all work through distribution channels. So if I walked into, the Maverick down the, that's a local owned company. So it's Chevron. We'll use Chevron, for example. Like that Chevron manager, he orders everything through whatever distribution channel. So you have to sell the distribution channel that then allows you to go into the different stores. And the distribution channels actually hold a ton of power, even in some cases more power than like if you walked into a Smith's, the distribution channel may have more say of what ends up on the shelf than actually the Smith's in some cases. So yes, absolutely. That is exactly what we're trying to go towards. We're trying to build production so that we can fulfill those.
Okay, I'm just going to piggyback off of Fonzie's comment. Maverick is your customer here. It's local. Their whole brand is adventure.
Yeah.
You want to bring the world in so you could partner, have them sponsor, somehow, back you in that way. And you've got more control with a local, I guess, convenience store, not just a gas station that actually embodies what you're trying to bring as well.
100%. I would love that. Maverick, they've been super smart about what they're doing, Adventure's first stop. And I think that really kind of lends well to what we're doing as well. So yes, I think they're on top of one of our lists of who to approach.
Okay. How did these pair with to make cocktails?
They're awesome. So of course you have ginger beer for all the types of mules, right? Moscow mules and your Kentucky mules and whatever hard alcohol. I had a buddy of mine, he created his own cocktail with our apple beer. So he mixed it with our apple beer and bourbon, and he called it the Traveler's Apple Pie. Put a little cinnamon. I haven't tried it, said it's really good. One of our White Horse, one of our contacts or accounts in Salt Lake makes a mocktail with our root beer. What do they call it? They call it the Applejack Mormon. So there are, in fact, we've reached out to some of the bars and restaurants, and that's one of the markets, right? Is like at bars and restaurants, there's a heavy emphasis on the alcohol, especially in mixed drinks. But a lot of bars and restaurants, they just have some whatever syrup, sugar mix they mix into the drinks, and that's fine for some bars. But for some upper class bars, having the same type of level for their non-mixed drinks, not only does it make the cocktail better, but also to service other people. Maybe you're playing DD, maybe you don't drink, or maybe you're the pregnant woman. And I don't know if you've ever gone to like a bar where everyone's drinking and you're playing DD and you're the goober with like the Coke and everyone knows you're drinking the Coke and you're like, oh, you're DD, and you just kind of smile and you feel weird, right? But with this, it gives the opportunity for people to still try something different, still be part of the experience, something other than walk or Coke out of the hose.
Recipes in cocktail recipes be like a Traveler's ginger beer, 6 ounces, that it's a way to get the name out there when they see it in recipes.
Absolutely. And I've tried to get a lot of my, bars, restaurants, those that serve alcohol to do that. create our own, even if it's a similar type of Moscow Mule, right? But putting our name on it, like White Horse did with their mocktail, Applejack Mormon, or maybe it's the apple beer they use. The root beer is used in a dessert. But to your point, that there are many things that you can, right? Whether it is mixed drink or standalone or in desserts or other things, that does lend itself well. So yes, thank you.
Hey, one quick thing. I came in late, so I don't have a whole lot of questions that would be relevant. But I spent a lot of time living in Africa, the last 5 years in Kenya, and Alvaro is a huge malt drink there. They have I don't know if you've tasted that, but just an idea as far as recipes go. You should get your hands on some Alvaro.
Alvaro?
Yeah,
I'll write that
it's
down.
really good. My kids would drink it by the caseloads. We would drive across town to buy it.
What do you know what it's made out of? Is it made out of
It's
some
a
sort of
malt
nut?
hops. It's actually made at the Kenyan Brewing Company in with all their other alcohols, but it's a non-alcoholic malt beverage.
I think.
That sounds awesome.
It's in Kenya, West Africa, East Africa. Yeah.
Awesome. I didn't know about that. I would love to be able to do a Brazilian guaraná. Someone told me about a Canadian pine beer that I've never tried. There's a Switzerland drink made with whey. So there are a lot of expansions or a lot of other recipes that we can develop. So come to me after and I'll need to write it down, but I want to write it down. So thank you.
I apologize if I missed this in your presentation, but is there anywhere locally where we can get your drinks here in Utah?
So yes, there's a two-part question. So yes, we're also running out of our current supply, and because we're putting all our resources into this rebranding and relaunching, hopefully we'll be able to be up and back and running without any gap in service. The closest one to you guys is in Springville. It's a coffee shop called Hobble Creek Coffee. You know about it? I'm actually doing a delivery to them later this week, so they'll have our flavors there. There's a few other restaurants. So White Horse, there's a store up in Salt Lake called the Jade Market, Rocky Mountain Mixers, and Holiday. We did a delivery to the store. I think they might be out by now. But yes, there are a couple places. But check out Hobble Creek Cafe because they'll have the freshest stuff.
As of right now, how are you producing? Who's producing these things?
I am. It's out of a commercial kitchen. I mix and boil, and I stand there and I go to and I cut lemons in half and I juice lemons and I'm juicing ginger. It is not a very efficient process for sure. That's why my production has been capped. And so as we started looking into, okay, how can we scale production? If we move into cans, what some bulk ingredients can we get? Real lemon juice, and can we mix that? And what equipment can we get to really allow us to ramp up production so we can fill things and cap them and get them out the door. So that's what we're in the middle of right now, is seeing what equipment do we need right now. The ultimate goal being I want to be able to move to third-party co-packing, but they have MOQs, right? Minimal quantity orders that if you don't hit, they won't make it for you. And so at some of them are, as low as 10,000, but some of them are dude, unless you're ordering 300,000 cans per SKU, we're just not. So there's this gap of what we can produce. So we're looking at getting equipment enough to be able to produce, a few pallets a month to be able to bridge into the gap of getting into co-packing, which that will really branch out our supply and be able to really move into bigger distribution and more production.
So I know that one of the big things of your brand is, all natural ingredients, no preservatives, things like that. Does that affect the shelf life at all? I mean, I know you said you wanted to get into big stores, so I'm just curious.
So we're looking at a couple of different things. There's other ways to preserve things other than just adding a preservative, right? You can pasteurize through heat, depending on how hot the liquid is when you fill it, whether it's hot or cold. You can do hot fill. So there's different scenarios that we can do that will limit so we don't have to add preservatives. Ideally, we're working up to be able to get a year shelf life unrefrigerated is ideal, so that when people do order through big distribution, because distribution channels, they want to have as much shelf life as possible to get it on the shelf and to sell it, obviously. So we're working up to be able to get a year, and I'm confident we'll be able to do that without adding any whatever.
Yeah, actually, hey, I thought of one thing here real quick because I know a couple co-packers locally. I'd be happy to introduce you to,
Love
and
that.
just because of my relationship, they may be able to do a smaller run for you as like a favor or something. If you're interested in that, I'd be happy to.
I'm
share those
100%
contacts.
interested. Yes, absolutely. Staying up to 3 a.m. and then getting up to go deliver is not sustainable for so long.
All right, I got one more question for you, and that is, what can the 1 Million Cups community do for you?
Yes. So, like the gentleman said, any networking connections, anyone that's is interested in buying the soda. So right now we're looking mostly at retailers, wholesales, just because we don't have the resources to do direct to DC right now, or any angel investors, anyone that wants to be part of this story that can see the vision. We're also looking for those introductions as well.